women were right for decades.
Yeah.
What the hell, man? How many people died because doctors just wouldn't let a woman give them a suggestion?
How many people continue to die?
I mean, I'll tell you after November 5th.
I mean, yeah, we're gonna. I have to have a drink of my Caucasian about that.
Welcome to Flan-Again, a Mike Flan-Again rewatch, brought to you by the Articulate Coven. For more information on the original Anne Rice fan podcast and community, visit articulatecoven.com and find more about this show at articulatecoven.com/Flan-Again. Welcome to Flan-Again, a Mike Flan-Again rewatch from the Articulate Coven. We are your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven. Ashley, it occurred to me last week when I was editing our episode about Book 5. First of all, at the end of that episode, you and I both said, y'all go watch Book 7.
Oh, yeah, we're trying to skip this. Then when I watched it, I was like, oh, the reason why it feels that way is because this episode and the next one completely flow into each other. It's almost hard to not watch them both at the same time.
Yeah, if this was traditional TV, I have fought so hard not to watch Book 7 before we record.
Me too.
I'm going to be so excited when we're done recording. So
I really did make myself not watch it the other night when we were watching. I was like, don't do it. I just didn't want to, because we'll confuse things, right? We'll say a thing that happened in the 7th when we would just want to talk about this one. We sort of did it last week. I got called on it. But first of all, I realized last week at the beginning of the episode, we didn't even talk about what we were talking about. We just went straight into the episode. So let's frame it a little bit. We've been covering Midnight Mass from Mike Flan-Again and Netflix. We were so horrified last week that we couldn't.
Right. We just went straight into it. So this is a spinoff of the Articulate Coven. We've been covering Anne Rice's Immortal Universe, the Vampire Chronicles, and her Lives of the Mayfair Witch series for years and years now. But Ashley and I are both big fans of Mike Flan-Again, and thanks to our patrons and the interest from them, we really wanted to cover this series. As soon as we started talking about it, Ashley's like, what I want to do is some Fall of the House of Usher, and suddenly it's like, well, I want to do Dr. Sleep. Well, I want to do Hush.
Let's do them all!
We're going to do them all. So that's what this podcast is. I hope that you're enjoying it wherever you're finding it. If you haven't listened to any of our Anne Rice stuff, it's out there for you as well.
Yeah.
This episode, we're going to be discussing Midnight Mass Book 6, Acts of the Apostles. That's the main topic. We do have some feedback, though, from the previous episodes. And first off, this one is not Midnight Mass or Mike Flan-Again related at all. But Ashley, you and I were talking about movies last week.
Oh, yes.
You had done the Terrifier series. I'm
so gross.
I'm super excited to see The Substance, but I think it might be too much for me. So thank you to Danielle Dunzelis. I hope I got your name right. If you have a problem with body horror, be really prepared. My sis and I went to see The Substance. It was amazing, but by the last 15 minutes, I was just crazy laughing in response to everything that was happening.
Oh, yeah.
It's very intentional with points to make, but we hid behind our hands 4 or 5 times between the two of us. All that being said, I do highly recommend it. It's beautifully twisted and iconic. I told Danielle, thank you so much. That's exactly what I needed, honestly. I need somebody to tell me.
You need to frame it. You need to know, like, when it's going to probably get to be too much. It's like the website, Does the Dog Die? .com, where you can go look up any movie and you can find out whether or not the dog in the film is going to die. And I feel like you should get some of those things for, like, horror warnings. If you cannot handle blood and gore, do not watch this. If you do not like needles going through people's faces and skin, don't watch this.
Well, and it's complicated as a horror fan, and I'm sure other genres have similar problems, just on a different wavelength. But this is interesting for horror fans because there are so many of us that I think are kind of like me that are generally squeamish, and it's not that I'm going to vomit. I'm trying to think, what is it with the body horror? It's like, I don't know, my brain can't process that level of imagery in a way that is going to allow me to continue to enjoy the film, you know?
Yeah,
right?
no, it's like it's a bridge too far for that for you. Like I can handle it to this point, and past this point, it's going to take me out of it, because it's either going to make you so uncomfortable that you can no longer focus on what the story is, which is a real danger. In a way, you can lose an audience in horror that I don't really think applies to anything else. You know, like if you go just a little too far with it, you can lose a whole chunk of people just because of discomfort, and it takes them out of the story.
So I was literally trying to think of like, what would that be in a different genre? And the only thing that I can think of is like, so, okay, you think of certain crime films, like the violence in a crime film can sometimes rise to the level of a horror gore almost. This scene from Reservoir Dogs, right, with the Steelers Wheel song.
Oh, yeah, cutting the ear off.
Yeah, or like, God,
there's a lot.
History of violence with.
But it's all based in violence, getting too far for what you can watch.
I sort of say or sexual assault, but that's violence too. It's
violence.
Just violence of a different kind. Yeah,
absolutely. So it's just pushing you past the point where, well, it's like we talk about in stage combat. You know, like when you're worried about the actor and not the character, your fight's bad. You know, like that's going to totally take someone out of, if they're worried about. If they stop being worried about Romeo and start being worried about Joe Schmo playing Romeo, then you've ruined it. You've fucking ruined it.
Ashley, I have never made that connection, but I do wonder if that is part of my aversion. And obviously, that's not to say that there's not a place for such things in filmmaking, especially because
plenty of people dig it.
The nature of filmmaking means that it's not. We don't have that same. I'm not worried about you hitting the person with the knife when you're doing.
Oh yeah, right. It's totally.
Work is different.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's different.
Yeah. But still, though, that is interesting.
The same concept, you know, like
I'm gonna have to sit on that and think about it. Anyway, thank you, Danielle. I am super excited to see The Substance, but now I know that's a watch at home where I can pause it and walk out of the room. And,
take a break. Yeah, watch an episode of Schitt's Creek to get the taste out of your mouth at the end of it. You know, whatever you need.
My mom joked for years that when she and my aunt read Salem's Lot, they would have to read a whole Harlequin romance novel after they finished reading the section of Salem's Lot that they were reading that night, so that she could go to sleep.
Been there. I had to. I was reading the first time I read Gerald's Game. I was in my dorm room at Tech in kid dorm, sitting there in the dark with just my lamp, my bed lamp, reading that damn book. I had to get up, turn on every light. Double, triple check the locks on my door, and I had to watch Tommy Boy to get that taste out of my mouth.
Gerald's Game will do it to you, especially as a woman alone. Like, goodness gracious. Okay, Alfie Holmes commented on last episode, said, I was curious about the height difference between Zach Gilford, who plays Riley, and Hamish Linklater, who plays Monsignor Pruitt. Googled it. Apparently, Zach is 5'8", and Hamish is 6'4". We were not wrong. That is a big boy.
That is a huge height difference, too.
That's 8
inches.
8 inches. It's almost,
8 inches.
Yeah, it's more than a half foot. It's a whole head for sure. We weren't wrong. There is a big difference there.
Yeah, as someone who is frequently at least 8 inches shorter than everyone around them, I can tell you that's a pretty significant height difference.
Okay, Faye Q said in the Facebook group, and this was a really excellent two-part question here. First of all, with Riley's turning, I don't remember seeing footage of him taking communion. So was he given blood after he was eaten by the angel? Or do we just assume he has been going to church for a while now, so he must have taken communion at some point? So first of all, no, Riley never took communion.
Yeah.
And absolutely, yes. After he's bitten, my assumption is that the angel gives him blood directly.
Yeah.
But I mean,
that's my assumption
could have been
too.
Monsignor Pruitt.
It totally could have been Monsignor Pruitt. It may have been completely, considering how fucking responsible he is for everything that happens past this point, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Faye also asks, though, I'm curious, is it okay for recovering alcoholics to ingest alcohol in a religious setting? I'd never really considered this, Ashley. What do you do if you're a recovering alcoholic when you go to take communion? Now, obviously, in a lot of Protestant churches, communion is grape juice.
Right,
it's not even alcoholic. But I think in Catholic Church, it's always alcoholic. Please, Catholics, recovering alcoholics, let us
weigh
know.
in.
Yeah,
Anonymously,
if you
like.
Assuming, right?
No, because I don't. I mean, I know people in recovery that work in like restaurant and bar settings that still will do a taste of a beverage before they put it on the menu or that sort of thing. Right. But it's like literally like how you're supposed to do a wine tasting, like done.
Yeah.
So no, I don't really know because I don't know much about the eating and drinking of our Lord and Savior.
Well, as we discussed previously, you definitely couldn't do the spit bucket technique, so you can't spit Jesus out.
No, you're not allowed. It's against the rules.
That's what Riley's accused of.
He is. That is. Yeah. You spit out the Lord.
Okay. Let's see. INGRL Errol. I don't know how to pronounce that. Excellent. I think you're doing like 3 interesting things there all at once, though. So kudos on the.
I need to see it written like the like it's a license plate.
Right. Exactly. They commented on YouTube. You guys forgot Renfield. So we've talked several times about the metaphor of this series as Salem's Lot. Obviously it is sort of inspired by Salem's Lot in many ways, but it's also Dracula. It's Dracula in a small town setting, right? So what the note here is, Pruitt is Renfield. We were talking about Pruitt's culpability. I hadn't thought about this, and I was like, that's such a brilliant take. So Renfield is a villain, right? Renfield is culpable and does terrible things in the novel, but he's also been sold a bill of goods.
Well, he's under the influence of, yeah.
I mean, like, Dracula's promised him things that are never going to come true for Renfield.
I feel like the difference there is that I feel like Pruitt sold himself a bill of goods.
Okay.
Like, I don't know that this angel was like, hey, bro, let me tell you what. Take me to your hometown. Because he talks about it all being his idea. I thought my people needed it. And he makes the angel follow him. He doesn't, he has to trick the angel into kind of following him. And so I'm like, I'm really anti-Pruitt this watch. I gotta be real honest.
That's fair. I think about specifically the scene at the end, towards the end of this episode, where the angel is in the church in the robe, and we're going to talk about that in more detail later. But like that, that smacks to me as like, and maybe it's the way that he's walking. I don't know. I get the feeling he's enjoying all of that. I also get the feeling at several moments there that he understands what's going on. Like, he never speaks.
Yeah, we don't.
But maybe that's just because he doesn't know English.
I mean, could be.
Right?
And he might speak telepathically to his little vampire friends.
That's what I think. I think the implication is pretty heavy here, that he is telepathically able to communicate, and probably very well, and maybe even in spell. There's a moment, for instance, and I don't think it was in this episode, I think it was in last episode, but there's a moment when Pruitt is looking at like Wade or Sturge one, and gives a sort of a directive, and he's said it before, but he catches his eyes and says it again, and suddenly there's compliance, and and we're going to go do the thing, and whatever question was there goes away. And it just occurred to me, maybe we're seeing a little bit of spell gift here. Like,
maybe
this is
we're
a very mundane
witchy
story, largely. It's a very like grounded tale.
Yeah.
So they don't get into that, but I think there's some of that there going on. So Renfield is very cool.
That is a very, very good, call out. Really, really good call out. Somebody also mentioned in a comment on something we were talking about how this world seems a lot more grounded in reality than like Anne Rice's vampire world. Yeah.
Yes.
And I've been thinking a lot about that and about kind of what makes the difference between them. And I think part of it is just because we're set up to see our vampires, Anne's vampires, as like the way they want to be seen, and instead of the way that we want to see them or the way that we've been trained to see them. And it's like what I talk about. I don't want to be one of these ugly ass Nosferatu vampires. That would be horrible, but that's because I've been taught that the Nosferatu vampires are horrible and probably smell bad, and that Anne Rice's vampires are going to be very handsome and pretty and and have just all these shiny qualities to them and be the best version of themselves, except also be a monster. I don't know. I think that it's just an expectation of what that type of vampire is, a romanticized vampire versus a claggy old cave hag.
It was Brandon Marriott. Brandon Marriott in the Facebook group asked that. They said, so this was about Midnight Mass rather than the Vampire Chronicles. I'm curious to know if anyone else feels like I do. The Vampire Chronicles and other vampire shows feel much more like fantasy. The supernatural element is presented in such a way that it was clearly fantastical in its nature. However, there's something about Midnight Mass, and I don't quite know what it is, whether it's how it's filmed or the way it's written, but the story of Midnight Mass feels much more grounded and real, as if vampires were real. The Midnight Mass version kind of makes a certain logical sense. It's hard to put into words exactly, but if vampires were real and were to out themselves to the world, the Midnight Mass vampire seems convincing and makes a weird sort of sense in our reality. Am I just having a crazy moment, or does that vibe with you? A lot of people.
No, totally vibes.
Well, and it's strange too, because if you had asked me, like, traditionally, whether Anne Rice's world was a fantastical one or a grounded one, I would have said, oh, it's a very grounded one. Like, and it is very grounded in historical fact. Right?
Yes, and absolutely.
Interestingly, her vampires have not affected human society basically at all, right?
Right.
They haven't. I mean, it's in the show even the. Yes, until the modern day, basically.
Until they get into burning things.
But it is. I don't know. It's so strange because I don't even think about Anne Rice as horror most of the time.
Well,
I think about her as like gothic fiction.
Yeah, like because it is more of like a gothic horror. It's a horror in the same way that Dracula is, the same way that Frankenstein is, you know, and that sort of vibe to it. The same way that Poe is, you know.
Yeah, well, I would say it has more in common with Mary Shelley and Frankenstein than Dracula because there isn't an innate evil in our characters, even when they do terrible things.
No,
they are very capable of like cognizing and discussing their morality. You know?
Oh, and love to.
Yeah,
love to. I think when I look about like I
finished Blood and Gold today.
Oh God,
Blood and Gold is Marius's book from the Anne Rice vampire world.
It's very good. I read it in like a day and a half. I went crazy on that.
I read it pretty fast myself too, but it is. I got halfway through it and I turned to my wife and I was like, what was the name of that last Taylor Swift album? And she's like, the Tortured Poets Society? And I said, this book is just the Tortured Vampire Society. It's just like sad, lonely, 1,000-year-old dudes sitting in a room telling each other about how sad and lonely they are.
How did I end up all alone? I don't even know. Maybe it's because I ran away from everyone I love. No one knows Marius.
Midnight Mass has none of that, my friend.
No.
This vampire is not existential. This vampire
and when I think about like
very focused.
Very focused. When I think about Anne compared to like another contemporary horror author, I'm always gonna think about Stephen King. And he's horrifying to me. He's horror. You know, like pure, scary fucking horror. Like sometimes you gotta put the book in the freezer. Scary, you know? Whereas I've never felt that way I've never been frightened reading an Anne Rice novel. I've been nervous for my guys. I've been worried for people, but I haven't been ever really terrified. You know what I mean? There's a couple of things, you know, like them like hanging out in the trees, chasing them through the forest and shit like that. I mean, there's moments, but it's not, you know, there's no degloving.
Notable.
Yeah. I mean, the blood we talk about is menstrual blood and not, you know, the blood that came off your degloved hand when you were handcuffed to a bed.
Okay. This is one of the things, and it's one of the big things that I know some people don't like about the Interview with the Vampire television adaptation, is that the vampires are too messy. They make too much of a mess. There's literally a line in Blood and Gold, and I laughed so much when I heard it. Marius is about to bite someone and do a transfer of blood, and the person says, "Oh, but I don't want any on my gown. They're wearing a really nice dress they just put on."
Don't you worry.
And Marius goes, "Don't worry, I won't spill a drop." And it's true. In the books, her vampires almost never spill a drop of blood. They're very, very tidy. And she makes a big deal about that, about like, it's such a precious substance. Why would you? It's like, how often do you spill gas? Right? Like, not very often.
Right.
It does happen theoretically, but when it does, it's a big deal because we don't want to spill it. It's a precious fluid. Same thing. So anyway, it's an interesting difference.
That would be the dumbest ass looking vampire feedings.
Oh, it would look so stupid on film. I agree.
Yeah, it would look like babies suckling at a teat. And that is really ruins the vibe of your sexy gay vampires, just gonna say.
But like, it's the opposite of Pruitt grabbing Joe Collie by the head. Anyway, Brandon, you're not wrong. It's a real different world here.
Yeah, real different world here.
Okay, here's a little dessert topic for this episode. The Raising Freethinkers podcast has an episode that talks about this is from underscore K13 on YouTube. The Raising Freethinkers podcast has an episode that talks about the disobedient woman trope and its opposite. He does a short summary of Pandora and Fitcher's Bird as the opposite example, and mentions a few other story titles. The full episode's under 15 minutes. I'll respond to myself with the link so that YouTube doesn't ban my comment. YouTube still did ban the comment, apparently. Neither of us could find it. They said, so most podcast apps have a broken link. Just look on YouTube for Of Curious Women and Dead Cats, Dale McGowan. I'll try to put that link in the show notes. I will say this. Last episode, Mandy Taylor had suggested a song. Heavenly Father was the name of the song. But the link that she had given me for me to put in the show notes doesn't work anymore. The video disappeared, so I was not able to put that in last week's show notes. Sorry about that. I will try to put this link in the show notes. But there you go. Check out the Raising Freethinkers podcast.
Interesting.
For the episode on disobedient women.
I am a disobedient woman. I will certainly enjoy it, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. Oh, there was one more comment that I didn't put here in the notes about that very same topic. So I put out a short about that idea today. Where it struck me as funny the way that you phrased it. You said, yes, can anybody tell us of a myth where a woman is rewarded for her curiosity?
For her curiosity.
This is from Saint Ajora Games, said, avarice is the root of all evil. Curiosity is portrayed as such because those in charge spent a lot of time, effort, and money to keep the dumb pores out of their business so they could continue screwing them over. You can always count on the greedy to be greedy. And that was just too good for me not to share.
It is too good. It is too good. Eat the rich, y'all.
So good, man. Y'all are so good. Okay, one more. And this will lead us into our episode discussion. We talked last week about doubting Thomas, and we talked about Jesus being alone at the crucifixion. That was one of the things that we talked about. Derek Lord, one of our patrons, corrects me, and he says, not trying to be the well-actually guy. I have a lot of useless Bible knowledge from being a preacher's kid and going to church for 38 years before I became a proper heathen. Wasn't John the Beloved also said to be at the crucifixion? Jesus asks John to take care of his mother, even though Jesus still had living siblings and Papa Joseph, as far as we know. So traditionally speaking, Joseph, his father, was dead, I think, by the time of crucifixion. Joseph of Arimathea, whose tomb it was that Jesus is buried in, he is supposed to have showed up, but only after Christ had died. But I did leave out some folks, apparently. So I did a little research here. Mary, mother of Jesus, was there. Her sister was also there, though, according to the Gospels. Mary Magdalene was there, as I said. And then Mary of Clopas, who may be the Mary of Mary and Martha, the sisters of Lazarus. Lazarus.
That's a lot of Marys, y'all. That's not a lot of creative naming.
What's weird is that Mary is like absolutely not a Hebrew name either. Like that's not, I think they all would have been Miriam maybe if they were. But anyway, so Mary of Clopas was there, and then also the mother of the disciples James and John was present according to the Gospels. Okay, so that list is in basically all of the Gospels. Then John's Gospel, the Gospel of John, the one that is traditionally written by the disciple John, that alone includes that any of the disciples were present. And specifically, John says that he was present in his own gospel. But it seems like it sort of puts him there specifically so that Jesus can notice him and say, mother, this is your son, this is your, son, this is your beloved mother. He charges John from the cross with taking care of his mother Mary. And then in the Bible, in the Gospel of John, this is John 19:26 and 27. From that time on, this disciple took her into his home. But Derek is right. There were definitely siblings of Jesus that were living. So like that is a little weird. And also, again, it's only from theoretically John's own reporting that he was there. So I'm going to take that with a grain of salt.
Right.
I absolutely was there too if I'm going to write my own gospel. Right.
I mean, I saw Elvis.
I had run far from the crucifixion, scared that I would be killed. And I'm a coward, folks. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so let's get into this. Episode 6, or book 6, Acts of the Apostles. Ashley, you mentioned it at the end of last episode because you said you had kind of rolled into episode 6 right away.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Let's talk about what remains when someone dies, especially unexpectedly. For Erin here, obviously, she's literally got to clean off the ashes from the seat and move the boots out of the way.
Yeah.
But it just struck me for some reason this time as like such a metaphor. Like I saw somebody on Threads the other day that they're having like a 6-month battle with some random company that their father was subscribed to, and he's been dead for like 7 or 8 months now. But they're still charging it. Like a problem with all, which means that they can't they can't close the accounts properly, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. It's like a whole
fucking thing.
Always these remains.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it a messy situation, no matter how they left us. Honestly.
Yeah. I mean, well, sometimes the remains are the emotional damage that's left behind, or the trauma that's left behind, depending on how someone passed, or, unfinished business. There's a lot of different ways that you leave shit behind.
It had never occurred to me until this watch, but when they row out there, Erin is facing the island and Riley is facing the mainland.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she moves to take the oars, she's looking exactly where Riley wanted her to go. She gives it literally a second where it seems like she's looking in that direction, and then she starts to row home. But do you think she gave it any weight? Do you actually think she considered it?
No, because she even says when they're talking later about how they can get off the island, when she's talking to Mildred and Sarah about how they can get off the island, she's like, it's 30 miles. Like it's 30 miles out there.
It's not really.
It's not really feasible, like in a fucking rowboat, y'all. And I mean, she was probably at least halfway out there with Riley, maybe. I can't imagine they were out 15 miles though. That's a fucking long way to row.
Yeah.
I think his effect would have been fine, regardless of how far out there they were. But no, I don't think for a second. And he knew she wouldn't. He knew she wasn't gonna leave. Like she has people there. He has people there. That's exactly what she says. I have people I love. There's people Riley loved that are there. So she feels that sense of responsibility. Also, this is again your community, and you've been a party to this shit in this church too. And
well, she doesn't even know the worst of it yet.
No,
that's what kills me is like it's like, oh, you thought your whole life had been ruined. Wait. There's more.
There's more. Oh, wait. On a very special episode.
Okay, so last episode we talked about the size of Hamish Linklater over Riley in those scenes. But here again, I swear to God, I think they do something different with their framing on him or something. Because
they probably do.
This image of him on the porch waiting for sundown, he looks so fucking dark and dangerous up there. He's like a wolf on the porch.
Yeah.
And he was such a peaceful dude like 2 episodes ago.
Right. Remember how much we loved him when he first showed up, and we were like, well, this is the kind of like religious leadership, this passion, this true love of the Lord is the kind of thing you really want to see in your church leaders. Oh no. It might be a red flag. And not like that. Not like that. Yeah. It might be a red flag. There's some red flags, y'all.
So Riley left letters for his family, we see the scene in last episode where he's standing in the bedroom with his parents, and that's where we see the blood effect. We see
blood,
the blood humming in their faces, and then we see him in the bedroom with his brother. And in that episode, it's sort of played a little bit like, I don't know, is he going to eat him? Is he going to turn him? Now we know he was going to tell them goodbye. He wasn't going to wake them. He's not going to do it, but he left them all letters. So brother gets his. Mom never got her letter, did she?
No, Dad took it, and he gave it to...
He read them, and like Mom didn't even know there were letters.
No. And I wonder if the brother ever read. Did he read his? Do we see him read his?
So he gets up, he wakes up, and he sees it. We see him pick it up.
That's right. I couldn't remember.
He would have opened it right away.
I'm guessing that his letter must not have had all the information in it that the other letters had in them.
Well,
or did it?
He doesn't drink. In
the
end, he doesn't partake in the final communion in this episode, where his other altar boy does, and so many others do. And it makes me wonder if, I mean, and again, I'm sure he thought just like Papa Flynn did, that it was all nonsense and delusions, and oh my God, he's off on a bender somewhere, and I can't believe he'd say these things.
Right.
But then when the shit hits the fan later, brother don't jump. So
no.
I mean, and he's grabbing Lisa to try to, and now part of that is probably just his relationship with Lisa.
Yeah, puppy love and all that.
I wonder if he didn't have the heads up too. I think he got the heads up, which again is like, Mama doesn't. So when Aaron brings it up with her later,
she's so angry,
so blindsided by it all, and so reactive to it. Yeah. Anyway, it's interesting. Like those letters, they didn't have their intended effect because Dad intercepted them, but they did have an effect, though, I think.
Yeah, well, and that's a great scene too, where he goes to talk to Pruitt about it, where he goes to talk to him about the letters, and is like, what? This is what he said. It doesn't make sense. I don't. Has he lost his mind? Is he drinking again? And he's having this whole fucking his own existential crisis about Riley, and does he ask is he gone, or is like basically is like he's dead.
It's rough. Yeah, that's such a great scene, and honestly, again, great acting from Hamish there, because it's like, we know he's nervous as hell. What did Dad read in here, and is the jig up? But also, like,
and was he going to believe what he reads? Please.
yes. How can I play it all off? And he's very much yes-anding, Ashley.
Right.
As
right.
an improv
That's
yourself.
very true. Yeah, I can recognize that move. Yes, and yes, and.
Yes, he was very disturbed.
Yes, he was very disturbed.
Yes, I do think he might have done something to himself. Oh my.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Ignaz Semmelweis?
No.
I had never heard of Ignaz Semmelweis either. Excellent story though, and I think it goes very much to what we were talking about last week about that whole idea of Pandora's box and Eve's sin, and the idea of like woman being blamed for curiosity, et cetera, et cetera. These women were right. These women were right for decades.
Yeah.
What the hell, man? How many people died because doctors just wouldn't let a woman give them a suggestion?
How many people continue to die?
I mean, I'll tell you after November 5th.
I mean, yeah, we're going to... I have to have a drink of my Caucasian about that.
Yeah, I know. No. Okay.
Oh, we got to talk about the amazing scene between Aaron and Sarah when Aaron goes to talk to the doctor as her friend and is like,
yes.
I got to tell you this crazy shit I just saw. It's crazy. And I know it's crazy, and I'm saying it, and I know it sounds crazy. And then she kills this scene so hard. The doctor she's like, oh yeah, you know what? That is crazy.
It is crazy.
You know what else is fucking bonkers? I'm like, yes, that is 100% Correct, ma'am.
I also like the idea that she literally has not been able to send any blood samples anywhere
No.
because she just can't help herself.
Can't stop
pushing it into the sun again.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could either. I think I would just watch them fry all day. Like, this can't be what I think it is, right? It can't be. I will say this. I think this scene confirms for us that vampires don't exist in the literature of this universe, because somebody in that room, somebody in that threesome would have said it out loud. Like, they got so close.
I feel like Sarah gets very close to it. Like, gets very close to it, which kind of makes me be like,
yeah.
Maybe somebody read a book one time. I don't know. But yeah.
Maybe they only have
like Mildred looks
Carmilla. Is that the first one? The one that maybe they only have Carmilla. Is that the one that came? Is it Carmilla? Is that what, or Camilla? What came out before Dracula? There's a female. There's a sapphic.
I don't
romance.
Know.
I think it's Carmilla or Carmella. Someone will.
We're gonna have to fucking Google that.
There's a modern adaptation came out just a few years ago on AMC Plus actually right now. So if you're one of those Interview with the Vampire people, you probably got access to it. I watched it like, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago. It's not bad. It's not great either. But it is that's like it preceded Dracula, I think, by like 2 or 3 years in publication, and was one of those that was supposed to have been influential. Yes, I love that whole scene.
Fucking Mildred looks younger than her daughter at this point. I mean, like,
she does. And
she is younger. The actor is younger.
Didn't we say she's in her? I think she's in her late 20s.
Young, like in her late 20s. Yeah, she might be in her early 30s now, but.
Well, if you're under 35, you look like you're 25 to me. So
yeah, very true. Joel and I got real old real quick. Annabeth Gish though is just amazing in this fucking scene. She's just so like, she just owns the stage. You know, like I felt like I was watching
processing it.
And she's been processing it, and she hasn't had anyone to talk about it with.
Yes.
Either. So she's been wanting to talk about this fucking crazy shit. Also, haven't you noticed all the other crazy shit that's been happening on the island? Like your baby disappearing, or Lisa walking again, and everyone we know getting younger and younger and younger.
Well, I think though, and again, she doesn't quite come out and say it at all in this scene, but one of the things that she is trying to get the two of them to understand is any possible solution to this issue will take away the benefits.
Yeah.
Like she's convinced her mom's going to die when this is over. She's convinced Lisa is not going to walk again when this is over, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, Erin's not going to get her baby back, sadly, but the other things are going to go back in a way that people are maybe going to have a problem with.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So such a weird circumstance to be in, but I love the fact that it's 3 women that are having this powwow, you know?
Yeah. They're like really, really going through all the details of everything and trying to figure out like the best way to handle it, you know, and getting off the island and getting the blood somewhere where it can be checked and looked at and in an actual fucking lab and not just in her, you know, kitchen, you know, is really important. But no, they're going to get fucking trapped on this island. And that's why you don't live on an island, Joel, is because someone can eventually fucking trap your ass there. That would be my ultimate fear. Trapped on a fucking island.
I decided roughly 30 years ago when I first started reading Stephen King that I was never going to live in Maine. When I watched this, I decided I was never going to live on an island. Yeah.
No, thank you.
I liked Wings, right? I was all about New England islands. Yeah.
Loved it. Nope, this ruined it. You ruined it. You ruined it. Can you imagine those people in this situation? Oh my God, the cast of Wings in Midnight Mass. Oh my God, it would be so funny.
Ranch. I don't know, guys. Might be vampires. They would send Lowell to turn off the cell tower, Ashley. That's who would have to do it. It'd be Thomas Hayden Church. Going out there taking care of things.
Those are our good guys. They can't be the bad guys. It's got to be the bumbling fools at the airport trying to save everyone.
Okay. Erin realizes during this scene that her drinking the sacrament caused her miscarriage.
Yeah.
And like we said earlier, I mean, it's like, oh, you thought you were having a bad day.
Yeah.
A lot of bad information for you. Hey, how about this? that pregnancy you were so happy with that saved your life, yeah, you killed that baby, actually.
Yeah. You didn't, though. You did not. That fucking dude.
Yes, no, absolutely, it's them, but
you're taking that communion in good faith.
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, you're not going to feel that way. She's going to, of course, feel horribly guilty and awful.
Yeah, that's what I'm
saying. I am like, I'm 10 toes down. She was taking her communion in good fucking faith. That's true. That is a fucking heinous. This is, again, a heinous manipulation of faith and trust. Faith, trust, and confidence. That's what's happening. That's what you're supposed to have with your priest, right? Something like that.
Yes.
Feels like you're supposed to have that. You have to have confidence in them, and because you keep them in your confidence, because you have to fucking confess your shit to them. It's so fucked up. It's so fucked up. Sorry.
No, not at all. Okay, let's go back actually one scene. Bev Keane and Monsignor Pruitt are talking about the fact that Pruitt knows that Riley's dead. He said, I'm not sure how I know.
Right.
Same way I knew Lisa could walk, I guess. But he's gone. I woke up this morning with the sunrise and knew he was gone or whatever. She just not just follows the plan or gets him to hold the line, but races ahead. How about we do it tonight, actually, at Easter? Isn't there any better time? I don't think this was the plan originally. And I think she accelerates it. I will say again here, this woman stands in the room with an actual vampire who has eaten multiple people and is still the bigger monster.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Yeah. And doesn't bat an eyelash.
No.
Ever.
Matter of fact, later on, he starts moving too slow for her, and she's like, he'll be fine back there. Y'all don't worry about him.
Yeah, y'all just let him do his thing.
Okay, we gave Papa Flynn so much credit last week for seeing through the sermon, and yet that motherfucker takes those letters straight to Father Paul. And apologizes for Riley's terrible suggestions in these letters while he's doing it.
I can't believe. Yep. Yep. And he goes into that church later, though, knowing that something's wrong. You can tell the whole fucking time. Yeah. Yeah. We gave him a little too much credit, bless his heart, but...
Father Paul, Monsignor Pruitt screws up here, though. He says to to Papa Flynn, Riley isn't well.
Yep.
Nobody knows he's dead. As a matter of fact, Father Paul circles back in a little bit. Oh, hey, don't assume the worst. Assume the best. That's what we're supposed to do as parents. Assume the best. But he let it slip right then, and I don't know. I'm trying to give him some credit somewhere, but I think that might have even been on purpose.
Oh.
To finalize it for Daddy a little bit. Yeah, your thoughts are right. Okay. Oh my God. Okay, so we talked already a little bit about the fact that Aaron confronts Mama Flynn, tries to get her to leave town, and Mama's
leave the island.
Why would we do that? It's Easter Vigil. Why don't you stay here? Actually, hey, will you get my son to come home for Easter? Actually, wouldn't that be wonderful? You should come to dinner with him. And so she tells her, she says, Riley's dead. I can't hold it. Mama turns on her so quick. She says, we have always tried to be there for you.
Oh, it turns so cold and like that cold biting, like a Bev, like that's like the vibe.
Mama's had some shitty thoughts about Aaron and the Greens for a while that she hadn't said out loud.
I agree, because it is. You never see her that cold in this entire series. You've never seen her be that cold and uncaring. And granted, she said something horrifying, but her instinct is to attack Aaron instead of asking questions. What do you mean Riley's dead? Yeah.
It was not, I don't feel great for Papa Flynn right then. I don't feel great for Mama Flynn then either.
No, we're not seeing them at their best.
Yeah. I love Riley's note from Monsignor Pruitt, though.
Oh, yes.
Remember, we are dust, and to dust
we shall return.
Monsignor Pruitt is so fucking mad. He crumbles it up. Like Riley was his nemesis or something.
If he was an rice vampire, he'd have set it on fire, too. That's right.
Sheriff Hassan is visited by Sarah. Sarah Gunning goes to tell the sheriff. She's like, look, and first of all, we don't get the whole scene. We just get like halfway through it, basically.
Right. It is a good scene, too. This is a really good scene, too.
Oh, it's great, because we get Hassan's backstory. But the other thing, though, is we skip over exactly what she told him. I don't think she mentioned the blood angle of this, like the massive anemia, etc.
Oh,
I don't think she talked about any of that. I just think, hey, there's this thing. I think it's originating from there. I think she was very specious about.
Yeah, yes. Like it's like a contagion at the church.
Yeah. Because again, like she never puts a fine point on it for him, which I wonder if she had. I mean, I don't think that he would have believed her yet. Like it's right. I think things mostly would have gone like they did.
Believe that?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what. Honestly, that's how the bad guys would win.
Yeah, right?
Because like it's
we sit and talk about fucking vampires for hours, a month, and if you told me, Joel. If you looked me in the eyes and said, Ash, there's a fucking vampire, I'm going to be like, Joel.
I met him,
Joel,
baby.
No, you've been in the sauce, buddy. You need to take a nap.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't fucking believe that. And I'm very
even
open to things.
But even being presented with honestly, maybe if my mother dropped 30 years in a week or two, like I might start answering some questions then, I guess.
If I were Sarah Gunning, it could be different. If I have my own observations to make about it. But again, who the fuck are you going to tell that's going to believe you? The only reason Sarah has anyone to talk about is because poor Erin watched her boyfriend explode in front of her.
Right. And it's literally happening to Mildred. She knows she just came out of dementia.
She knows this ain't normal. And she also knows.
Like they did yesterday.
She knows that's Pruitt, too. Like, she knows.
Yeah. Well, he told her.
Yeah, she knows.
He even told her it was a blessing. It was a miracle. Okay. But the Sheriff Hassan has such a great line. He says, did I ever tell you why I came to this island, why I took this job? And she says, no, I don't think you did. And he goes, I don't think I've told anybody. It's almost like nobody ever asked.
Mm-hmm.
And man, on the one hand, you would think, well, wouldn't somebody go, why would you want to come to a town with no other brown people?
Yeah, sure.
Literally just be that straight?
Like just making conversation. Sheriff, what brought you to the crock pot?
But yeah,
that's just a normal fucking question to ask somebody.
Well, but what we just saw with Mama Flynn, I think, is indicative of why nobody did. Nobody had anything nice to say, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all too Midwestern polite, Northeastern polite, I guess, New England polite, to say so. None of them, they just, honestly, I think they all thought he wouldn't last. Right? Like he'll get tired of this. We'll give him the cold shoulder long enough and he'll go away.
Right.
We'll get a different sheriff. One that'll fit in here better. But like, first of all, though, Hassan's story is fucked up too, though. The whole, it's 100% real. It absolutely happened. There was a massive recruitment of Islamic young men and women.
Yes.
And then there was a massive retaliation, relapse, whatever, reaction.
Reaction,
They suddenly had a lot of people of different origins in their organizations.
In these organizations and positions that were important, that had access to classified information or very quite secret information. And do we trust them and don't we?
But that very thing, though, is like a perfect example of why
so stupid.
I don't really believe in conspiracy theories. The functions of government do not work in an ordered enough or planned enough way to actually achieve conspiracy theories. Like that, they didn't even think. Like they were racist and they didn't think about it because they wanted to solve this problem. And then suddenly they looked around and there were too many brown people in the room and they were like, oh no, what have we done?
Yeah, absolutely.
Neither one of them were thought out or reasoned. Anyway. Government's just reactionary, just like people, is my point.
Yeah, and I love that it's unpacking that kind of like that part of the post 9/11 world that we don't want to talk about. We want to talk about, and also even bringing 9/11 into his story is putting into the story some huge like shared trauma. Like anybody that was around and old enough to remember and know what was going on that day, we all have a shared trauma around that experience, everybody in the US anyway. It's just whether it affected you in that moment or not, it's a shared traumatic event that we all kind of experienced together. And so we see that in a macro, and then on the island we're going to see, you know, everything that's going to fucking happen in the next 48 hours is like a microcosm of that sort of thing. And it's fucking crazy. And but I think it gives it a whole different layer to it, and then forces us to look at that like ugliness, because we always do say, oh, the America came together so well after that. And I mean, like, okay, yeah, I guess we did to some degree,
but
asking
questions.
We said yes and
so
daddy,
yes,
and it was bad. It was a real bad. And so I think that's it's a really cool thing to bring into an already really compelling story. You didn't need to. His story could have just been about his wife's terrible fucking cancer and wanting to get away from the town and place that they lived, you know?
Yeah. I was literally discussing the shoe thing the other day.
Oh, look, they're taking the shoes off?
Yeah, I was like,
we didn't have to do that.
Well, it's just such a strange thing to think of. One guy unsuccessfully tried that once.
Yeah.
And 22 years later, whatever,
we're still taking our
shoes off at the airport. It's so crazy. I mean, it's the same. It's the comedian's joke about, we've got to dispose of these liquids because they might be explosives. Where are you going to dispose them? In the trash can right here. It's like security theater is what we've mostly got. Yeah. And also a lot of restrictions and a lot less freedom in different ways than we had before. So like, it's a weird situation, guys. Just anyway, fear. It goes back to what we were talking about with it. Like, don't be motivated by fear.
Yeah. Driven by it.
Yeah, not the way to go.
It's not a good motivator.
Okay. There are no fairies, and Sturge is working on all the boats on the island.
Interesting choice, Sturge. Interesting choice.
Sturge says a great line here, though, and I think it's perfectly indicative of like this like slowly decaying situation. He says, "If you're worried, Doc, I suggest you bring it up to the mayor. I'm sure he could put your mind at ease."
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, with a fucking lug wrench to the head.
Yeah, like, I mean, that's where we're at this point. You know, yeah, disagreeing with any of these fucking people is putting you in danger at any time, you know?
They start to turn and walk away, and he goes, "Don't forget, Easter vigils." So fucking creepy, man.
And we've got the creepiest Easter midnight mass that has ever existed. Just the strangest thing ever is a midnight Easter mass.
Well, as somebody pointed out earlier, like that's absolutely not the thing.
That's not a thing.
You have midnight mass a lot of times at Christmas.
Christmas.
But Easter is a morning celebration. The Easter doesn't happen until dawn, right? Like, no. Jesus Christ arose at dawn on Easter Sunday. That's the idea anyway. So, yeah, it's a strange situation, and they all know it and they all feel it, and it's all starting to come out here. Okay, so the power goes out, and suddenly the sheriff, I think, is thinking twice about what that doctor was just trying to tell him.
Yeah. Like, yeah, for sure.
Well, wait.
Well, he goes to the church. He goes to the church with everybody else.
He does. Well, you know, but even like, then, I mean, he wasn't going to go until Ali says something about a surprise, a miracle. They're going to have another miracle.
Mm-hmm. I just want you to be there.
Okay. Maybe it's going to be a contagion.
Well, the other thing is that like the power's out all over the island. How about we just chill? How about we just chill at home for a little while? Chill at home. Read a book by candlelight. Like, go to bed. Just go to fucking bed, everyone.
Man, Ali's abandonment of Islam was swift. Like, yeah. This is like Lent's 40 days. Yeah. So this whole thing takes place over just over a month. It's like 6 weeks at max. Yeah. And he went from like faithfully praying, and we watched it. We noticed it when he's jumping up faster and faster. Then he's not praying at all. But like that dude's a little Christian right here today.
Onward Christian soldier. Yikes on a bike.
So it comes up a little bit later in the episode, but like has he been taking communion already, Ashley?
I think he must have.
I think so.
I think he has to have.
I think so too.
I mean, at least a little bit. Otherwise, I don't think he comes back.
Yeah.
I think that's the deal.
Yeah, I don't think they would have brought him up like that.
No. Yeah.
Okay, so, man, I just want to talk about for a second Wade and Dolly, which, by the way, I got to look up this actor's name now because I meant to mention this on the last episode. The guy who plays Wade, the mayor, he's from Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, really?
Yes. Okay. Do you remember
Michael Trucco?
Yes, Michael Trucco. Okay.
Trucco?
He was like an athlete that Starbuck fell in love with on Earth.
He was on How I Met Your Mother. That's how I know him.
Capricorn or whatever. Yes. He was also on How I Met Your Mother. He did a bunch of other stuff too. But
he looks totally different with the mustache.
Right? It's the mustache that does it, man. And then they've grayed him up a little bit too. But yeah, I want to talk about the insanity there of Wade and Dolly carrying these hymn sheets around, carrying these candles, and they're taking their daughter to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, they're going to go kill their daughter. They know what's happening. They were that's why Dolly was crying when Flynn comes into the office earlier, because they had all just talked about what the plan was for tonight.
Yep.
Listen, we've talked about Bev Keene's culpability and fucking evilness. Wade and Dolly can go straight to hell.
Yeah, it's incredibly fucked up. Now we've gotten to the Jonestown portion of the evening, where it's like, seriously, like, we're a cult. This is cult behavior. This is like, if you know what's happening and you are going along with this shit, you are in a cult, my friend.
Yeah.
Full on culty cult. It doesn't matter if Jesus is your homeboy. You're still in a cult.
So it sort of reminded me of, honestly, like, I thought a lot because it's such a fucked up story. It's the story of Isaac and Abraham. In Genesis 22, God tells Abraham, well, first of all, Abraham was an old man and his wife was an old woman, and God said, I'm going to give you, children as numerous as
like
stars in the
800
sky.
kids? Yeah. That's so weird.
And then he doesn't for a long time. But finally, they have Isaac eventually. So Isaac is like, traditionally, I think we think of him as like 10 or 12 at this point, right? He's a young boy still. And God says, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moreira. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain. I will show you. And so early the next morning, Abraham got up, loaded his donkey. He took with him his 2 servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for a burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He said to his servants, stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and then we'll come back to you. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the 2 of them went on together, Isaac spoke up and said to his father, Father, yes, my son? The fire and wood are here, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? Abraham answered, God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering. So literally at the last second, God's angel stops Abraham's hand before he plunges the knife into his son and says, look, there's a ram in the bush, and provides the actual offering. And he unties Isaac from the altar, and they kill the ram and burn it. It's such a fucked up story. I'm not a good preacher. If you Google this story on YouTube, I'm sure there are some fairly good preachers who can give you a message where this makes sense or is some sort of positivity. I don't understand it. I've never understood it. And I've had several people recently that have been having this story taught to me and knowing with fairly good certainty that if God told my dad to kill me, he probably would have. And I mean, I don't know that Dad would. I don't feel confident that Dad would have. But it's 5-1 and pick 'em, I don't know, man.
That's some real heavy shit. That's some real heavy shit. You know, everyone thought it was real shitty when Stannis Baratheon did it. That's all I'm gonna say. And if you think that just because your God's involved and not and not some fucking red witch, then I don't know how to tell you that's not any different. They're the same picture.
I mean, I just always thought, what Abraham's wife was, I can't remember. Anyway, what would she have said when he got down off that mountain without their son that they had prayed for and that God had said he was going to give them for years and years and years? And they finally had him.
I hope she would whoop ass is what I hope she would do.
I mean, I don't know. But here Dolly is.
But I don't think so. Here's Dolly.
The candles.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, yeah. Like Dolly gave birth to this girl.
Dolly drinks the shit first.
But she's first in line after Sturge. Like, it's so... Anyway, the whole thing, it just struck me as like, y'all, hug your children. I don't... anyway.
Don't sacrifice them out on the mountainside hoping for a goat. That is not good parenting.
That wasn't even what I was Googling originally. I was going to pull up Psalm 96 here. Okay, so they sing Psalm 96 as they walk around. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord all the earth. Sing to the Lord, praise his name. Proclaim his salvation day after day. Declare his glory among the nations, his marvelous deeds among all peoples. This is very much a King Jesus type of psalm. Mm-hmm. This is or not even King Jesus, because this would have been Yahweh. This would have been the Old Testament, obviously, as a psalm. So yeah, this is High Holy Church.
But
this is
Ten Commandments stuff. Praise vibes.
Yeah, absolutely. But also it's like, y'all get in line. The Lord thy God is here kind of situation. It's very much this is a come to Jesus call as they march around the island. And also, like, again, this has totally ruined candlelight vigils for me, I think, honestly. But also the way that Bev's like, let's circle the whole fucking island. Make sure let them hear us, she says.
Yeah.
And like, I get it. But also like, no.
Every lock on my door is locked. Every curtain at my house, even though no one else in the town uses curtains, is closed. You don't stop by my house with your candles and your witchcraft.
It's one of my favorite country songs. Every curtain in the house is closed. Man, yeah, genuinely, it's ruined candle processionals for me forever. I don't think I'll ever be able to carry candles. Sturge was a little early on the cell tower, I think, for a perfect plan, but that dude was excited to get to church, Ashley.
He really was. He was ready to go. Today's my day. Listen. And good news for Sturge. Like, all he has to do is shave that beard, and he's a pretty good-looking guy under there.
Well, I know we've given Sturge some love in this series, and they do kind of shit on him a little bit, but, like, that dude did all of the dirty work. Like,
he's very loyal.
His hands are so bloody.
Yes, literally, because he had to dispose of Joe Colley in the fucking rug.
Okay. Father Paul, Monsignor Pruitt, once he actually takes the stand there, the pulpit, I should say.
The stand. That's where he should be. In a court of law.
He calls out that he's wearing his gold robes today, and he says, I was actually wearing it that first Sunday, the first Sunday of the new covenant. The what now?
The new covenant.
We're in a new covenant? We're in a new
covenant? A new? Is this a threequel? Are we in a trilogy of covenants?
Listen, you Catholics and Protestants, there's a fellow named Joseph Smith talked about a new covenant. Y'all did not.
Y'all didn't like that. Y'all did not like that very much. I seem to recall. Now, granted, that new covenant did put Jesus in South America, which seems a little silly. So maybe everyone's right and no one's wrong.
I like that all of the Native Americans are Jewish descents. That's my big favorite of the Mormon Bible.
There's so
all
much
the
fun.
Indians are Jews, actually. Man, those old westerns would have been very different, wouldn't they?
We'll baptize the dead both ways.
Well, hello there. That's a whole lot of Kool-Aid cups and maybe even more rat poison than you have cups. Like, where did all that come from?
Well, we know where the rat poison came from.
Yeah, I'm saying Bev ordered some for the occasion is what I'm saying.
You know she did. Bev fucking, yes. She may have even had to leave the island to go get that. I don't know if Amazon could have gotten it there.
I don't think I have ever hated Monsignor Pruitt more than as he's holding Sturge. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with him. I'm with you. He does it again later with Ali, and I hate him so much in those moments.
It's so gross.
Yeah.
It's so gross. It's so gross. It's just the fucking hubris of this guy is just sickening to me. Like, it's just this watch. I have a lot of, like, I don't know. I don't normally feel this strongly, like, anti Monsignor Pruitt, but this time I really have a beef with him. I think it maybe is because I'm analyzing it a little bit more deeply, and it's not like my background show while I'm in the bathtub. But Christ,
boy, Papa Flynn goes to rethinking all those crazy things that Riley had said in those letters too, doesn't he?
Yeah, because now he's like, hey, let me introduce you to my friend.
Y'all, I mean, I'm glad that everybody responds as they do to the angel, but that dude immediately goes to quoting, and they were sore afraid.
They were sore afraid. I want to fucking hit him with a folding chair. I wanted to go full on WWE on his ass.
Okay, you mentioned it the other day. That voluminous golden robe comes in handy now, doesn't it? It's a giant ass robe.
Yeah, when you needed to cut. But you had to cut holes for your wings.
Okay, they absolutely did cut holes for wings. But okay, so that's the moment to me. Like, the bat wings should finish it for everybody, shouldn't it? Like, that should be the moment where people just leave the church.
I would think so. That would be the time that I'd be like, bet, I'm outie. None of these fuckers hanging out by the back door like a bunch of creeps. No, let me out this church.
I just can't, like, okay, that happens. He extends his wings. He doesn't growl yet. But then after the wings go out, that's when Ali goes to the front and is like, yeah, let me take it. Like, what in the world? And then,
why does that make it better to you? Like, oh, this guy, ooh.
Fucking revival breaks out. Like, people in the crowd just start.
Yeah.
No one ever explains it, by the way. No one ever says, this is poison. He's going to die. We don't. Just the whole thing, the fact that anybody does it, it just drives me insane.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, he tells them that you've basically, through your communion, you've had this angel's blood. So you're going to be fine. You're going to be reborn. So anybody that's there at church just checking it out for the first time that has a communion really needs to not drink that shit, because you're going to be fucked.
Lisa does not drink it.
No.
Like, clearly doesn't want to. She's freaking out at the eye. Like, tries to stop her mom from doing it. Tries to stop
her parents from doing it.
Yeah. Which, again, we had a question before, like, what is the autonomy of those that are turned? And I think Riley honestly settled it. But here is another example of, like, if anybody should have been influenced by this blood and by this whole miracle, Mildred and Lisa should be at the front of that group.
Right. They should be the ones like,
wavers.
Herd and dare, let's drink the poison. And they are not. Neither one of them is into it.
No, because to me, they are the two truest believers. Right? Like, we know that Mildred was a daily mass attender before her illness. Now,
and since her accident,
part of that might have been her relationship with the priest. But I think part of it was that she was devoutly Catholic. I think it's one of the reasons why she never forced a question of their relationship.
Yeah, he never
claimed. She also understood,
right, what he was and who he was and what his job was and what his relationship with God was, and that's less offensive to her than him never claiming his daughter. Cute.
I mean,
religion's adorable.
Listen, I'm not saying Mildred was right. I'm saying
no, I know, but you're right. 100%. Well, and Lisa, since her accident, she goes every day.
Well, I think she went before her accident every day. I think Faith was part of the thing that had gotten her through that entire experience, that had gotten her over her hatred of Joe Collie to some degree, where she could have still a positive and productive life even before her miracle. I think those are our two biggest, honest, true believers, and that's why they are so able to see through this whole thing as it unfolds. Whereas the rest of these folks are hangers on, right? The church was empty before the miracle, and now it's full. These folks just want a piece of miracle. Most of them, anyway. Okay. Mildred has had enough when she starts seeing people actually dropping.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
She picks up the gun.
Everyone's dying in a horrible way, obviously. Like, we've seen this poison work a couple of times now, and it's fucking gross and awful, and that's exactly what we're seeing happen across this church, in this holy place.
Mildred's had enough. She says, I'm gonna end this, and fucking not just shoots him, but double taps too, like one in the gut, one in the forehead.
Very good shot, Mildred. Very good shot. You know, like, I was like, dang girl, dang. She did not miss. And neither does the angel.
Does not care for her choice in that moment.
No. He did not appreciate her bold choice as an independent woman. And fucking yanks her right out of the building.
And just like that, though, Bev seizes power in that moment. When Senior's down, Bev closes the doors.
Lock the door. But Ashley, the doors are to remain open as the gates are always open. No, this is what we're supposed to do.
As Monsignor had suggested would happen, the congregation begins to awake.
Yes. And then promptly start fucking eating everyone that is not dead yet.
All right. I said fuck Wade and Dolly earlier. Wade is the first one to eat somebody. In my head, it was Sturge. I thought somebody got injured and Sturge got bloodlust, and Sturge sees the blood and gets hungry, but doesn't act. It's Wade, who not just acts, but he's like, don't even worry about it. Don't even worry. Come here. And she gets away, and he snatches her back. He's like,
and throws. It's so awful that they're down in the fucking pew. Ugh.
And you hear him bite. You hear him bite into her neck.
Yeah,
it's fucking crazy, man.
Yeah, it is a nasty.
Okay, so Daddy Flynn does not make it out. He gets pulled back into the crowd, into the swarm.
None of the Flynns drink the juice either. None of the Flynns drink the juice.
Die from the poison. So Daddy Flynn gets stuck in the church. Mama makes it out. Little brother makes it out. Aaron makes it out. Sheriff Hassan makes it out. Sarah and Lisa. That's the group that is coming out. And then
on the run.
Bev is in the doorway of the church.
Bitch is hiding.
Of course she is. It's so perfect for her characterization in this series. But I love, though, she's standing there monologuing, and Aaron just takes the opportunity. She doesn't need two shots, by the way. She puts that bitch down in one.
And says, okay, we got 5 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Bev Keane says, man plans and God laughs. Yeah, man plans, Bev Keane laughs.
Yeah.
She tells Sturge, let God sort them out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really gross. She's a gross, horrible person. Thank you. And even before she's a vampire, she's a gross, horrible person.
Yeah, it's so crazy because she doesn't get any worse, honestly, as a blood drinker. Like, she is exactly the same bitch.
Yeah, she is the same all the way through this. Except I think she wasn't sure how much sway she would have over this new priest. But then once she realizes it's Pruitt, she's like, oh, bet. I've had control over him for probably however many years has been slipping further into his dementia.
Well, I mean, and it makes me wonder, like, how long was he just taking her suggestions before that?
Right.
Even, like, she's probably been running this church since she was a fucking teenager, honestly.
Yeah. I mean.
So now the doors stay open as the gates must always stay open?
Mm-hmm.
How convenient.
Yeah. things have gotten a little too gross inside. And we need to let everyone outside so that they can eat the 20 people who didn't show up at church.
Yeah, right. Speaking of, we've seen this bloody ass church before in Riley's.
It's dreams. In Riley's nightmares. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so gross.
Interesting that they go here full circle, man. Bring it back to us. You were 100% right, Ashley. This episode is a hard one to stick on. If this would have been traditional TV, this would be a 2-part finale.
Two-parter.
Right?
Yeah.
You would have dropped these at the same night in a 2-hour block or something.
Or they would have just horrifyingly cliffhangered us until the next season.
Yeah, now that might be
Can you
true.
fucking imagine? Oh, can you imagine having to wait 9 months to find out the end of this shit?
Are they all gonna leave the island? I mean, I guess if it had been a separate season, there's more than just next episode, one would imagine. So
right, it would just be leaving you at that, but still.
Yeah, but man, it is an interesting one. I will say this, just for recording's sake, as you're listening to this, it'll be late this week or right before release, before we record our next episode. But when we record our next episode for the finale, that will be the last time that we talk about Midnight Mass, at least for a while. So if you have any feedback on the finale episode, get it to us on this episode somewhere in the feedback, and we'll put it into next week's show. Let's talk about what we're going to do after that. So first up, on the weekend of November 3rd, we're going to do Salem's Lot, the new adaptation from Max. And then we're going to start our book club for Blood and Gold, which I just discussed. I'd finished. That's the book about Marius from the Vampire Chronicles. Really good book. I really enjoyed my read of it.
It's a great book.
It's interesting because, Anne does 3 books in a row that sort of revisit events. She did Pandora, she did Vampire Armand, and then this one all together. And they even revisit some of the same events.
They
honestly, do. That's really satisfying to hear things from a different perspective, which is rare in her series. So
I really love it. Plus, it's some of my. I mean, I fucking love Pandora. So after I finished Pandora, when we read it for our episode about it, I immediately jumped right back into Blood and Gold, right away. Read them back to back. So I'm gonna do a reread for this round. That's
what I'm doing basically. So I've listened to the book, the audiobook, and now I'm going to go piece by piece as we break it down in the episodes and just read those sections. So as we're breaking that book down, though, doing our book club episodes, we're also going to do some movie nights, and let's look at the voting for that. Our patrons at the $5 and $10 level and above got to vote on those. So our number one vote getter, Ashley, was Let the Right One In. The foreign film. It's an adaptation of a great novel. So yeah, we're absolutely going to do that one.
Love it.
Also do the second top vote getter was, and this was surprising to me, Underworld.
I am so excited. I have not ever revisited that movie. I think I've watched it once and that was it. So yeah. I'm very pumped to watch that again.
I think I've watched the whole series. I believe I've watched all of them anyway, and I enjoyed them all. But yeah, a lot of folks really into that one. After that was Voyage of the Demeter, which I'm super excited about because I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, I'm excited to watch that again. Oh, yeah. Y'all, that's a fun one. Ooh, yay.
And then From Dusk Till Dawn was the fourth top vote getter.
Super.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that one too.
Yes.
And then Blade was the kind of runner-up. But I got to thinking about it, and as I finished Blood and Gold, I have this idea that we're going to break it down. We'll obviously read through the book properly, but we're sort of going to break that down in relationships that Marius has. And there are 5 of those pairings that I want to talk about. So we're going to do 5 episodes for Blood and Gold. And we'll do 5 movie nights in between that. So those are our movies. We're going to do Let the Right One In, Underworld, Voyage of the Demeter, From Dusk Till Dawn, and Blade. Those are going to be our movie nights for this section.
That's a good range of
couple of silly
different
ones.
Types. Yeah, different things within the genre. I love it.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I love Blade. I fucking love Blade.
I do too. Well, and Chris Kristofferson just passed away, so we'll get to talk about Whistler and Chris. I'm a big Kristofferson fan, so
yeah, he was fantastic in that too. I love that character.
He was so good in that. They brought him back 3 different times when they weren't supposed to. Honestly,
they killed him a lot too. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Whatever.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about all of that coming up. So that's what's coming up. So if you've got things that you want to point out or things that you want to mention about the finale episode, go ahead and give that feedback to us this week, and we'll put it in the next episode before we wrap up Midnight Mass. Once we wrap up Midnight Mass, again, Articulate Coven goes back to the Anne Rice world. Flan-Again will continue, and you're going to get episodes in a couple of weeks, starting the series of Fall of the House of Usher.
Fall of the House of Usher. You guys will get to meet my honey, my Brat. And we'll...
So excited.
I am too. He's really excited too. So I'm super pumped. We're going to try to get this... We got to get through this week. It's so effing crazy, but then I think we're going to try to get some things recorded at the end of the weekend or early next week.
Yeah, awesome. And again, patrons will get those videos and audio early, but then it'll go out on the regular feed. So if you're subscribed to the show wherever you're listening to it or watching it, then you'll get those when they are available for everyone. I guess that's about it. Go and watch book 7 now. I know Ashley and I are probably going to race to do that, actually.
I'm literally going to go watch it in the bathtub. Well, I take my evening bath. I'm gonna...
It's Ashley. You and I are miles and miles apart, but we're both going to watch Midnight Mass. I love it.
And I love it. I love it so much.
It's a good bathtub show. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm sorry. Everything is a good bathtub show. I love to spend hours in there. If I could operate my entire existence from my bathtub, I 100% would.
I watched probably 3/4 of Hannibal from a bathtub, if I'm being honest. That might be why that might be why my wife looks down on my watching of Hannibal so much, because I spent so much time in the bathtub during that.
You did not hang out with me at all, and you spent a lot of time in the bathroom.
You didn't leave the bathroom for like 3 months, dude. Anyway, all right. Go and watch Book 7, Revelation of Midnight Mass from Netflix, and come back and join us next week when we talk about it. Until then, we've been your hosts. I am Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven. Thank you for watching Flan-Again, a Mike Flan-Again rewatch from the Articulate Coven. If you want our videos and audio early and ad-free, visit articulatecoven.com/join and join the coven.